low-carb diets don't fix insulin resistance, they just hide it. And worse, the problem continues to get worse in the background. It's out of sight, but it continues to get worse when you are on a low-carb diet. I want to dive into that. I'll also explain why allowing insulin resistance to go unresolved actually sets the stage for another serious, really serious diabetes-related health problem. I'm talking about cancer. If you're new here, on this channel, our goal is to tackle diabetes in a way that truly heals the body. We have zero tolerance for low-carb diets because, as you're about to learn, low-carb diets don't fix insulin resistance. They just keep it out of sight. We also use a free shopping guide for all our daily healing essentials. Just drop a comment below to grab your copy. Why do I say low-carb diets actually hide insulin resistance instead of fixing it? I want to keep it really, really short and clear. When you are insulin resistant, what it really means is that your body cells don't respond well to insulin. When you eat carbs, your body cells use insulin to pull that excess sugar from the bloodstream into the body cells. So clearly, insulin's job is to help your body cells get that excess sugar from the bloodstream into the body cells. So when your body cells don't respond well to insulin, your sugar in the bloodstream starts to build up, and that results in high blood sugar when you eat carbs. So with low carb, the solution is simple. Just drop the carbs. Drop the amount of carbs you eat, and there will be less sugar entering the bloodstream, and your blood sugar will be normal. There's only one problem with that. You're not fixing the real problem. The real problem here is that your body cells don't respond well to insulin. And the solution is to get your body cells to respond to insulin so that they can control the amount of sugar in the bloodstream. So if you're just dropping the carbs and not getting these body cells to respond well to insulin, it means you're just covering up the problem. The problem is still there. The only thing you achieve when you cut the carbs is just make the problem less visible. It's less visible, but it's also getting worse. I think a lot of people are misled by normal blood sugar when they go on low-carb diets. People think when you have normal blood sugar, that means your insulin resistance is also healed. But that is very, very far from the truth. Insulin resistance is more than just your blood sugar number. It's about the carbs you eat and the insulin and time your body has to use in order to restore normal blood sugar after eating that amount of carbs. So it's really a ratio between the carbs you eat and the amount of insulin and time your body has to use to process that amount of carbs. What I'm trying to say here is that blood sugar numbers alone can be misleading when it comes to assessing your insulin resistance status. You need more than just blood sugar numbers because the regular blood sugar and A1C tests don't go far enough in determining your insulin resistance status. You need a test that takes into account how well your body cells respond to insulin. And by that, I mean, of course, this test should show you exactly how much insulin and time your body has to use to process a certain amount of carbs. The test that can give you that information with accuracy is the glucose tolerance test. And I always talk about this test because it's the one test that can clearly show you your insulin resistance status with so much accuracy. And people will be surprised that you can have normal blood sugar and yet be insulin resistant. And that's exactly the case with low-carb diets. You manage to lower your blood sugar, but at the same time, the low-carb diet that's helping you control your blood sugar is actually making you more and more insulin resistant. So when people who follow a low-carb diet and rely on blood sugar numbers to assess insulin resistance, what they realize is that after taking the glucose tolerance test, the insulin resistance has actually been there all along. It has just been in an undetected state because of relying on blood sugar numbers to assess insulin resistance. Okay, I want to talk about why you can't afford to just let insulin resistance go undetected and even get worse. Insulin resistance has a very, very strong connection to cancer. And here is why insulin resistance is connected to cancer. Insulin resistance is a clear sign of chronic systemic inflammation because the reason body cells are resistant to insulin in the first place is because they are in a state of chronic inflammation. So that chronic inflammation that makes body cells resistant to insulin also puts you at risk for cancer. And we know chronic systemic inflammation is involved in the formation and progression of cancer. So it's a very, very serious risk factor you can't afford to ignore. And I know there are so many people out there that follow low-carb diets, and they'll be like, I've been on low-carb for 2-3 years. Everything is fine. Here is something I want to say about cancer. Not just cancer, actually. Cancer and chronic diseases in general. Diabetes included, actually. Cancer and other chronic conditions develop slowly over time. They don't just happen suddenly or within a very short period of time. The diabetes you are dealing with right now developed over time. It just didn't happen suddenly or overnight. So 2 to 3 years, things may look good, but cancer can actually be building up behind the scenes. And that's where the real danger is. So you may not realize it, but that same low-carb diet helping you with blood sugar could also be quietly behind the scenes be building up colon cancer or other types of cancer. And that's not what you want. You want to control blood sugar in a way that fosters healing in the body. You don't want to address diabetes or control your blood sugar in a way that puts you at risk for other health problems. You can't put yourself at risk for colon cancer in the name of controlling blood sugar. So it's really, really clear that there's this very, very strong connection between insulin resistance and other chronic conditions. By taking the glucose tolerance test, it can help you understand where you stand in terms of your risk for diseases like cancer and other chronic conditions like heart disease. So the glucose tolerance test is actually useful not just for your insulin resistance, but also understanding your risk for other serious conditions like cancer. When the glucose tolerance test indicates that you are insulin resistant, that shows a very high risk for other chronic conditions, including cancer. And when that test shows that you are insulin sensitive, the opposite of being insulin resistant, it shows that your risk for other chronic conditions is on the low side. So in my opinion, the glucose tolerance test is really, really important, not just for your diabetes, but your health in general. So my whole point is this. Yes, low-carb diets can give you those good blood sugar numbers, but they do so in a way that actually worsens insulin resistance. They worsen insulin resistance, but it stays hidden. It stays hidden, but it's also getting worse, putting you at risk for even more health problems, such as colon cancer. It doesn't make sense to lower your blood sugar using a diet that actually increases insulin resistance and puts you at risk for even more health problems. Here is what you can do to truly reverse, not just hide insulin resistance. Number one, avoid low-carb diets and center your diet around whole plant foods. Number two, eat a wide range of fermented foods. They are rich in probiotics, which can help to heal your gut. Healthy gut function lowers chronic systemic inflammation. Chronic systemic inflammation, when lowered, improves your body cells' response to insulin. That means you are actually reversing insulin resistance. When insulin resistance is being reversed, your blood sugar stays normal when you eat carbs. Number three, ask your doctor about taking the glucose tolerance test. It's a more reliable test for assessing your insulin resistance than relying on the regular blood sugar and A1C tests. Number four, comment below for your free shopping guide. It has all the essentials you need to reverse insulin resistance. Remember, we are doing it to heal. I'll see you in the next one.